There can be a lot of mistrust when it comes to early access games. I'm not sure if I've just been lucky or not, but I can genuinely count the number of disappointing full releases I've paid up front for in a single hand. Ironically, most of those disappointments haven't even come from brand new indie teams. They've come from well-established developers. I'm looking at you, Goddess. Goddess is probably the biggest guilty purchase I've ever made on PC, and I've been amassing a hoard of Steam games for over 10 years. One day I may even play some of them. I did play Goddess though. I played Goddess for 7 hours and then I never touched it ever again. I did keep my eye on the game though, and with each update came more disappointment. It quickly became abundantly clear that Peter Molyneux had managed to oversell me a product all over again for the 19th time. Whenever I see Goddess languishing in my Steam library, I shed an angry tear about the £10 I've lost. If only MicroTown had been available back then, I might have vouched for that game instead. MicroTown doesn't oversell its premise, and as such my expectations were pretty tempered. Even the game description is simple and twee. Build and manage your own settlement, a relaxing village construction and management simulator. That's it, that's all it says, and it's all very, very true. MicroTown is a relaxing village construction and management simulator, and its heritage can easily be linked back to some of my favourite classics from the past, namely the Settlers franchise. It's a game of gently increasing requirements where the size of your village and the technology it currently seeks is locked into an ever-expanding list of wants and needs. And those wants and needs are obvious. Your villagers need food, so you're going to need to start up some farms. Your villagers also need homes to stay in, so you're going to need some wood. But you don't want to run out of trees, so you're going to need to replant them. So a forester should do the trick. But someone will have to grow the trees first, so you're going to need somebody to do that. Oh shit, that's a lot of jobs. Better build more houses. Shit, now I need more food. This is the core gameplay you'll be working with throughout MicroTown, from the very beginning to the very end, and you'll constantly need to keep an eye on the stocks of various materials you're currently producing. This is, at its core, a sandbox with working parts. It isn't completely aimless like most sandbox games, but the tugging of your arm is often a gentle one. One thing this sandbox doesn't cater for is conflict. Personally, I see this as a positive because I'm a big baby when it comes to some evil menace stomping all over my beautiful landscape and destroying my hard-built stuff, and I'll just end up throwing a strop. The game has none of that. It focuses solely on the supply and demand of your ever-increasing township, and I'm thankful that the developer didn't feel the need to go down this route just for the sake of shoehorning an antagonistic entity into the mix. It's a game about building towns. Micro-towns. There are a number of criticisms I have, but take these with a pinch of salt because the game is still developing and some of these issues may well be ironed out. Minor points first. You can't drag and select anything, so building long roads or demolishing big chunks of buildings requires a lot of clicking. As the game draws to its final conclusions, it also dawned on me that it's increasingly difficult to differentiate between buildings, and can be particularly finicky as the game doesn't really give you any good indication as to whether something is working as intended or not. You could be missing a vital ingredient in the production chain, or your workers may have reached capacity, but there was nothing in the game that seemed to warn me about this. I only found these things out by following the supply chains back on themselves to try and source the problem. Thankfully, the animation of your villages tells a good story, and it's easy to work out what the issue is when you do follow them back. Equally, the tutorial is great, but it does fail to inform you of a few critical points such as storage requirements, and it would be nice if, when unlocking a new technology, the game highlighted any new buildings you've unlocked. As it is, you just have to sort of browse through the build menu until you find them. A lot of these complaints so far are mostly UI based, and it practically comes with the territory when you're dealing with early access anyway. So I don't have any particular concerns on these. There are a couple of negatives which may have a bit more weight though. Buildings don't have an effect on each other. You can build a house surrounded by belching smokestacks and it doesn't seem to have any effect on the villagers. In my case, I built a beehive right next to one of the main pathways and next door to the market, and no one seemed to care about the huge swarm of bees. I can tell you one thing, you wouldn't catch me buying carrots from a market full of bees. I'd rather starve to death. I also did get some sadistic enjoyment out of building the smokehouse right next to the pig farm. Just the idea of these pigs on their farm looking at their dead friends hanging up, ready to eat. There's something certainly macabre about that. My only other complaint so far is the length of the game to unlock everything. It took me approximately 2 hours to see the game through to its current conclusion, the building of a monument. This is unlocked at the end of the tech tree, and unlocking the tech tree is a smooth and gradual task-based affair, topped off by the building of a library that supplies you with constant research points toward the end of the game. This one I'm not half as concerned about. The developer's list of features for the full version gives me high hopes that the game's depth will expand outside its already pretty impressive scope. And here's the thing, MicroTown is currently selling for £5. That's half what Goddess was selling for in early access, and it's already got more charm, depth and honesty than that game did at completion. There are some scrappy graphics choices here and there, again listed as something the developer plans to improve, but the animations in particular are incredibly charming, and watching your little village come together, however badly built, is an absolute joy. I started playing this game this morning and I did not stop until I reached its conclusion. Equally, I already want to get back into the game to improve the disgustingly compact village and make something that I don't have to be ashamed to look at. So with that all said, I highly recommend MicroTown if you're the core audience the game is aiming for. It wears its influences on its sleeve, and what you see is exactly what you get. Don't expect action, don't expect complex tactics or strategy. Expect to sit down with a cup of tea and have a thoroughly pleasant time questioning why your villagers put you in charge.